guys, welcome back to the video. Today, as y'all can see, I legit just woke up. It's 10:10. Oh yeah, it's in the morning so early. Well, not that early. But it's kind of early. A few more hours until it's 12. Well, a few more hours, gonna be 11 and then 12. Yeah, guys. So, we might do a scary episode, which is nice. So yeah, let's do that. Alright, guys, we are ready. Let's do this. Nightmare Files. Nightmare Files? Ooh. So this is gonna take a 1 hour episode.
I'm 30 years old, and this story took place when I was 13. My mother was a single mom, and she had to work 2
I gotta be
jobs.
very quiet.
So I was home alone a lot, but it was okay because I was used to it. One night, I was watching TV while eating ice cream, and someone knocked at the front door. I was wondering who it could be, as my friends never came out this late and my mom would always use her key to get in. I opened the door,
Hold
and
on,
it was
guys. What is that? Alright, guys. I got some SpaghettiOs. Yes, I eat that in the morning. When I wake up in the morning, I do eat that. But, yeah.
standing there with his hands in his pockets. I said, "Hello?" He replied, "Hello, young lady. Are your parents home?" Stupidly, I said, "No. My mom isn't home right now. You have to come back tomorrow." He then said with a surprised smile on his face, "Oh, you're all alone, huh?" I said, yeah, I am." He replied with, "Okay, young lady. Have a nice night. Don't get into any trouble." He then walked away and I closed the door.
That is so stupid. You don't tell anybody that
But
you're
also weird at
alone.
the same time. He was a little funny looking though. He was balding and had 70 styles glasses on, with a mustache and bags under his eyes like he never slept.
Never slept?
About 10 minutes passed, and there was another knock at the door. I got up to answer it, but before I opened the door, something told me to put the chain on. I don't know why, but my gut told me to do that. It was strange because we really didn't use the chain, but I'm glad I did because as soon as I opened the door, it was pushed open, but abruptly stopped by the chain. Before I could even say or do anything, I looked through the crack of the door to see the same man again, and he said in a startled voice, "Oh, oh, hey there. I just wanted to make sure you were okay," as he studied. It was like he knew he failed getting inside the house and tried to play off any suspicion by speaking quickly and making it seem like he didn't just obviously try coming into the house. I said, "I'm fine, thanks," and I shut the door. At that time, I didn't really understand the situation or the dangers of what just happened. But still, I was a bit freaked out. And when my mom would come home soon,
Even if I wouldn't
an
tell
hour
I'm
went by,
alone.
and I was still thinking about what happened, so I started to watch a movie, trying to keep my mind occupied, when I heard, "Hey, let me in quick. I gotta tell you something." This was the scariest situation I've ever been in my life. It was the man once again. He was talking through the letterbox. I shouted, "Leave me alone." The letterbox closed. Then the man started banging on the
Do I
front
have mail
door,
or
screaming,
something?
"Let me in, you little shit," while slamming the front door handle up and down, trying to get in. I just stood back crying, praying he doesn't get in.
I'm not letting you in.
He eventually gave up and left. My mom came home about 30 minutes later, just to find me crying, and I told her everything that happened. We told the police, but they never found this guy. I look back and I think how grateful I am that I had the feeling to put the chain on the door. I hate to think what that man would have done if he had managed to get in.
That's horrible. Are these true, actually? The elevator.
When I was 19 years old in
Is this the elevator
1985,
game? If this is the elevator game, I
a bunch of
swear
my
to
friends and I
gosh.
went to a rooftop bar of a hotel. About a half hour before midnight, I ran down to my car because I had forgotten my camera. I figured I would have plenty of time to get back up there and find my friends. I grabbed my camera and I got into an elevator all by myself. About halfway up, the elevator started shaking and it stopped completely. I was trapped. I have always had a problem with confined spaces, so this was not an
I
ideal
don't like
situation for me.
elevators.
After a few minutes, everything went silent that was going on outside. Then out of nowhere, the elevator lights went out, and I started to hear children laughing. But this was not the type of place where children
No,
would be.
go away.
My heart started beating faster,
No,
faster,
go
and
away.
harder and harder. Then all of a sudden, I passed out. As I woke up, I noticed that I could not move or talk. I thought to myself, not sleep paralysis again. Then the lights started to flicker on and off, and then all of a sudden,
You need to be
I
on
see a
lights.
black figure to the left of me, in the corner of the elevator, crouching down, smiling at me. I tried to scream, but nothing would come out.
No.
I tried to move, but I couldn't. A guy came over the loudspeaker and told me there was an electrical short, and that he would have me out soon. There's a camera in the elevator, so to the security guard, it looked like I was just laying there. I guess they figured I was drunk, being that it's New Year's. Anyways, every attempt to scream or move, that figure would just start laughing at me and pointing. This whole time, the lights were flickering.
Of course,
Then all of a sudden,
I
I can hear
you
the
are the
huge
unlucky
crowds
guy.
counting down for New Year's. 10. The dark figure is staring at me, and now with a menacing smile, with 10 fingers up. 9. He's still looking at me with 9 fingers up, and he's moving closer.
8.
8. He was still
7,
looking
6,
at me
5,
with
4,
8
3, 2,
fingers up.
1. Gosh
He's
darn,
closer.
this man's creepy.
7. The same thing. 6. The same thing. 5. The same thing. 4. He's drooling, and he's much closer. 3. He's closer.
A little close.
2. He was closer.
Get back.
Then the lights quit flickering, and it was pitch black.
Maybe he was
Then all of a
counting
sudden,
down when the lights
outside
came back
was
on.
silent again. I felt breathing in my right ear, and then out of nowhere I hear 1. I couldn't breathe. The lights started to flicker again, then the figure was on my chest, and all of a sudden it was gone. And I can talk and move again. Usually when I have sleep paralysis, something bad happens. Once I got out of the elevator an hour later, I found out that there was a brawl during the countdown on the rooftop bar that I was at, and 4 people were killed by some maniac who was waiting until the end of the countdown to start hacking up people with a machete. Ever since then, I have not had a sleep paralysis episode.
He is the luckiest man alive. No, no, no. I mean, at least... Wait, your friends died. That's sad. What's this one? What? Is this like the freaking ending? Okay.
I used to frequently use TikTok watching trick shots,
Oh
gaming
boy,
posts,
TikTok.
and other comedy clips. There
I
was
don't
one guy
like
who I followed though, but the clips he
don't use
posted were very unusual. They weren't very nice, to be honest.
I don't like it.
He used to wear this
But that's my
featureless mask
opinion.
and do
But
things
y'all
like
have
spy on
your
people in their
opinions.
house and
I'm
friends,
not trying to,
even when as far as to
make y'all
attack
mad.
someone. I gotta say, I'm not sure if
I
it
used
was
it one
real
time.
or not, because the clips would end before you could tell. But it felt genuine to me. I'm not proud that I watched this guy harass
Not
and assault
proud.
people, but I did. One day I noticed I had gotten a new follower on TikTok. It was the same guy that I just mentioned.
Same
At
guy.
first I was a bit worried, but shrugged it off. I was in the underground underground parking lot after I was done grocery shopping. It was late in the evening, so the parking lot was practically empty. Well, it looked empty, but I could feel that there was someone there with me. I suddenly became very paranoid. That night I was scrolling through my TikTok and saw a clip that made my heart sink. It was me in the parking lot looking anxiously around my surroundings. It was by the same guy that had followed me on TikTok from earlier. The next 2 days were the same. I was very paranoid, thinking I was being watched and followed. And my suspicions were confirmed because each night that guy had posted, it was clips of me. I felt sick and decided to call the police. Unfortunately, they said there wasn't much they could do, as no crime had been committed.
Sure.
A week
The
went
police
by,
always has to.
and the post
I don't
stopped.
know why.
I started to relax, thinking maybe he had just moved on, and it was all part of his prank thing or whatever. That was until
Prank?
I was attacked outside my house. I was hit over the head with
Pull it.
I fell to the ground, nearly knocked out, but I was still conscious enough for a moment to see. What I saw will haunt me forever. It was a man standing over me
I'm
with a
knocked out.
featureless mask holding a phone up. I passed out, but the next thing I remember was waking up in a hospital.
So you
I
did
was found by
survive.
someone who lived nearby. I told the police of what happened, but his account had been deleted. Whether or not his clips were staged or fake, his assault on me certainly was real.
You're using
The
that.
weird thing I don't understand is why he deleted his account after attacking me. Unlike the other people, I deleted my TikTok. And this incident and the experience has scarred me for life.
Wait, you're still in the hospital?
I just want to tell you, be aware of your surroundings, because you never know who could be watching you. And honestly, I would stay off of TikTok and any other social media.
Women, here's a revolutionary idea.
Please do not share and subscribe.
This story happened to me a long time ago when I was 5, and it took place on my first day of
5.
school.
First day.
The first day was introduction day, more like a morning where the parents would come in with their kids and talk with the teachers and that kind of thing. I remember my teacher talking with my mom, and I wandered off slightly down the hall just to look at some drawings that were pinned
No.
up.
You're still
As I
new
was looking
here.
at the drawings, I heard, "Hey, they're pretty, aren't they?" I turned around and saw a middle-aged man in blue overalls, holding a mop
You're just.
while grinning at me.
Get the freak out of
I
here.
didn't say anything. I just looked at him. He then crouched down and said, "They're pretty just like you." As he said this,
Go
he
away.
brushed my hair behind my ear with his long, dirty nails, still grinning at me while showing his yellow teeth.
Mom! Mom, help!
He suddenly dropped his mop and grabbed my arm tight and started pulling me with him. At that point, I heard my mom calling my name, and as soon as the man heard her, he let go of my arm. I ran to my mom and gave her a hug. The rest of the morning was fine. I didn't mention what just happened to my mom. I think at the time I was too
Why?
young to understand the danger of what just happened.
I don't think I would have.
I only attended the school for about 3 weeks before changing schools. I never really knew why we moved. My mom always told me it was to move to a better school, but it was only recently I found out the real reason. My mom had told me that the janitor that worked at the school was arrested for kidnapping and other things with a child, which was a few weeks after I started.
No.
I
That
looked
Gina
it up
walked
on
up
the
to
internet
me.
and I saw
I'm gonna
it
find the
was same
closest
man
thing and
who
then hit him
pulled
on
my
the
arm
top of the head
and
with
tried
it.
to get me to go.
That's what I'm gonna do. I'm not gonna get
It makes me
kidnapped by
sick
that
thinking
man.
about what could have happened if my mom didn't call out, or the man never let me go.
If that never happened, Mom! Mom! You
My name is
scream!
Charlie. I used to smoke a lot of weed back in the day when I was a teenager,
Wow.
but it became very bland and boring. But I also told myself not to try any other drugs. At school, my friend Christine told me that she
You
heard the
should
best
never
weed was
do
on the dark
drugs.
web.
Drugs is
I
bad
knew
for
a little
you.
about the deep and dark
And
web,
drinking.
but I thought
So
that
don't
drugs
do
would be
it,
something geared more
please.
toward the deep web.
Please.
Maybe I didn't know as much as I thought. My friend got with me later and told me she ordered me some weed. About a week later, I was at home by myself on a Friday night when someone knocked at my door. I went to the door and looked out of the peephole and saw some guy with a black t-shirt, black Yankees cap, with sunglasses on, and it looks like a box in his hands. I was immediately skeptical because it was 9 p.m. He didn't need sunglasses at night.
I didn't order anything.
And no one delivered packages this late. I didn't say anything because I figured he would just walk away. I called Christine to ask her how long that order would take, and she said about a week. I told her that there's a man outside my door with a package. Could that be him? She asked, why would someone be standing outside your door with weed? Then all of a sudden, I heard,
"Hey Charlie, I have your package. I know you're home. I see you through the window."
I turned around, and this man was standing on a patio on my back porch looking through the sliding door windows. I'm guessing this guy went from my front door to my back porch because I wasn't answering the door. I told my friend and she said to call the cops. He was trying to get in the back, messing with the door handle. I hung up on my friend and I called the cops. I ran out of sight of this guy, and I didn't hear him anymore. About 5 to 10 minutes later, the cops showed up. That box was outside my back door, and written on it was, "You're lucky." And there was nothing in the box but paper. After that, I never spoke with my friend Christina anymore because, honestly, I didn't trust her. I thought she tried to set me up. Anytime someone brings up the dark web or even the deep web, I will either change the topic or I'll be quiet. I used to visit it occasionally, but after that situation, I've never done it again.
Dang. That was good. This is not good.
What's this place?
Years ago, when I was in the 5th grade, and I were walking home from school, we noticed some of the other kids laughing very loudly at something and running away like they were disgusted. We looked back, and they were laughing at this woman who was walking behind us. We didn't know why because we saw her every day when we were walking home from school. We just never spoke to her, or we never even seen her up close. We moved closer to see what was so funny, and we definitely noticed what the other kids were making ruckus about. This was a man dressed in a miniskirt with high heels on. The other kids were throwing sticks and rocks at it, but he never responded. He just smiled while he was walking. A few days later, I just so happened to be watching the news, and I saw the same guy's face on the news. My friend who lives around the corner was getting her mail when she saw the man across the street watching her. He waved and he started skipping across the street like a little girl while loudly asking her, "Do you remember me?"
What is it?
She was one of the kids that threw rocks at him. She shut her door as he started running full speed toward her house while wearing a wig, miniskirt, heels, and a woman's tank top. He started banging on her door until she called the police. He was caught within minutes. Anything could have happened to us that day with this guy roaming our neighborhood. But luckily, nothing ever happened to any of the kids that I knew. This story happened about 3 years ago.
Dang.
When I was 16, I had my first boyfriend, Ben, who just so happened to be my next door neighbor. For the first few months of dating, we were going fine. Up until I had dinner at Ben's house one evening.
Oh no, last
His
time.
dad, Graham, gave me the
They were,
creeps.
last time,
From
one of
the
them
first
were,
moment I ever met him, he was
one of them were
creepy.
cannibals.
He shook my
All
hand
of them were
tightly and had a
cannibals.
big grin on
Last
his face
episode.
with his
Last one.
big bulging eyes. At the dinner, I swear Graham never took his eyes off of me at all. Every now and then, I would glance over to see if he was still staring at me, and of course he was. From then on, I spent more time around Ben's house. We would watch movies in his room, play video games, or just study homework.
Okay.
Whenever I was at Ben's house, his dad would always be lingering around. Like he would always burst into the bedroom without knocking, asking things like, "How is everything?" or "I thought I heard you calling me." Basically an excuse to come in. It's like he wanted to catch us doing something, if you know what I mean. And whenever I would go to the bathroom, of course, he would try and come in, even though the door was locked. He would knock and say, "Oh, I didn't realize someone was in the bathroom." This creepy stuff went on for a while, maybe about 2 months, but there was this one incident that really scared me. Ben asked if I can go to the basement and grab a couple of pops. I
Basement.
went down there and looked around in the
What
fridge to see what drinks they had. Then I heard the door close. It was the basement door. And then his dad came
I
walking down
told
the
you you
steps.
came with me.
He asked me what I was doing down there, and I told him I was just grabbing some pop for myself and Ben. I smiled and walked past him and headed up the stairs. I tried to open the basement door, but it was locked. His dad locked it behind him. I turned around and said, "Sir, could you help? The door is stuck." He didn't reply. I went back downstairs and I saw his dad with his top off, rolling a can of Sprite on his body, saying, "It's a hot day, isn't it?" I was extremely uncomfortable, and I asked once more, "Could you open the door because it seems to be stuck?" I didn't say lock because I didn't want him to know I was uncomfortable. He said to me, "Here's the key," and placed it on a small table next to him. And then he said, "Come and get it," while smiling with his tongue rubbing against his teeth. I let out a nervous, awkward laugh as I thought he was joking. He wasn't. I crouched down to grab the key, but just as I did, I could feel his face near mine, and he was smelling my hair. I could hear him, really close, breathing in through his nose. As soon as I got the key, I sped, walked up the stairs to open the basement door. I just left at that point, and I went home and cried in my bedroom. I never told anyone this story, and I broke up with Ben shortly after this incident.
Oh, it's not
We lived
his
there for 2
fault.
more years after that, until we moved away.
Or is it?
Every now and then, I would see his dad in his garden or something, and he would always give me that same creepy smile like he did in the basement.
No, you
People call me Yaya. This happened to me
creepy
when I was
man.
a young
What?
girl, maybe 7 or 8. It was a Saturday afternoon, and my mother and I were at a mall shopping.
Okay, you're in a
We went
mall.
from store to store.
What else are you?
Mostly for me.
What are you gonna?
I was a spoiled
What
kid.
are you getting?
We went into a coat store, and I was pretty bored,
A
so
coat store?
I would constantly walk away from my mother to play and stuff as I did in every other store. My mother would always call my name, and I'd go running to her. This time, I was playing in a round coat rack. My mother called my name, and I ran out. I ran right into this older man. Then he grabbed me. He grabbed me by my wrist.
Well, get
and
the
asked
freak
why I
off
was
me.
running. I told him because I have to get to my mom. He then told me he could take me to her, but I said no, and he let go. It was weird
That's
because
good.
I saw this man in
That's
almost every
very
store
good.
we went to,
Bravo for you.
but he never had any bags. After that store, I had to use the bathroom really bad, so I went while my mother went to
Hey,
the
Mom.
food court.
Can we
I
just
sat down to use
leave
it for
now?
maybe a minute when someone else came in. The person walked right up to my stall. At this point, I was just looking at the person's shoes. They were men's shoes. I was confused of why a man would be in here. Before I could look up, the man said,
Hey, Yaya, everything okay in there? I'll come in if you want me to.
it was the man from the
Oh
stores.
my
I looked up.
gosh,
I
poke
could
him in
see
the
his
eye.
eyes peeking through the crack of the door. He then started shaking the stall.
Well,
I
you can
began
climb
to
under the
scream.
stall and you can climb up
I've
the
never
other
been so afraid
stalls
in
and
my
then
life.
just climb
Then
out.
2 women walked into the bathroom and the man took off. These women took me to my mother and told the police. They found him due to the cameras. I don't know what his intentions were, but the police said he
Dang,
probably would have kidnapped me. Who knows?
That must,
From that time on,
like,
I would never leave my parents' side while in public.
yeah, if you're that age, don't leave your parents. But what age were you?
When I was just a little boy, I had an imaginary friend. Well, at least I thought he was an imaginary friend. Today I'm not so sure.
What do you mean you think?
I would see him from time to time around my house. He was a man and he lurked in the shadows. He was completely black from head to toe. His skin
That's not
was
a
charred
friend.
and
That's not a friend.
like a burnt match.
That's something else.
I couldn't make out his
But
face or any other
that's
features.
not a friend.
All I could see were his red eyes. He had the most terrifying red eyes I've ever seen. And even
Those
now,
are some red
when I
eyes.
think of them, it gives me the chills. He appeared at a random and without any warning. I would be playing with my toys and all of a sudden he would be there. He never made a sound. He never said a word. He never did anything except stand there staring at me and smile.
These are not
Then
real.
he would vanish as quietly as suddenly as he had come.
23rd True
As
Horror.
time went by, I got accustomed to his presence. It got to the point where he would
these
just
are all
appear and I would just
true.
glance at him,
No.
then go back to playing with my toys. I could always feel his eyes as he was just standing ever so close and ever so far away at the same time. My family knew about him, but they never saw him themselves. My mother and father thought it was cute that I had an imaginary friend, but when I described him to them, they got a little creeped out.
Yeah.
My sister
I
was
would
the
get
only one
creeped
who
out.
believed me. She's the only one who believed he was real, and she said it scared her. One time, I had just finished going to the bathroom and I started washing my hands. I was standing on a little stool so I could reach the sink. All of a sudden, I saw the man out of the corner of my eye. He was walking up the stairs. I called my sister and told her
Who
the man
has a
was here.
sink next to the
She came
stairs?
running over, but just when I was about to point out the man, he walked backwards down the stairs until he was out of sight. When she left, he came creeping back up the stairs. I gave up trying to show him to people because he clearly did not want to be seen. Eventually, my parents moved out the house. I remember seeing the man with the red eyes watching us as we were moving and the van pulled away. He didn't follow us, and I didn't see him again after that. I dismissed him as a figment of my childish imagination. Years passed and I forgot about him. Then, one night, when I was 16 years old, I was walking upstairs to my bedroom. It was after midnight. As I was walking down the hallway, something emerged from one of the other bedrooms. It stepped out into the light and I realized, to my horror, that it was the man with red eyes. I stopped in my tracks and I froze. My heart was in my throat. He just stood there staring at me. The red eyes burned bright and he flashed me a malicious smile. Then, still staring at me, he slowly walked across the hallway into my bedroom. If this was a movie, perhaps I would have chased him down and forced him to tell me who or what he was. Perhaps it would have ended in me fighting to the death, but this wasn't a movie. It was real life, and I did neither of those things. I simply turned around, ran back down the stairs, and fled from my house. I sat on the curb outside, shivering and shaking until dawn arrived. I haven't seen him again since then.
That sucks. That really does suck.
Women, here's a revolutionary idea.
What is the next one? What is the next one? What is the next one? That's creepy. Now I'm looking to see if there's actually someone looking at me. And I swear to gosh, if something is looking at me from there, I swear to gosh, man. Legit, I swear to gosh, if something is looking at me. Instagram. I've never been on Instagram.
I was a big Tinder guy a few years ago. Everywhere I went, I would update my location and then update, my body count. Then I quit doing Tinder and stuck with Instagram. I know, they're completely different, and IG has a bunch of fake accounts. this girl commenting on all of my friends' pictures. Then she commented on mine. I also saw my friends replying, so I figured she was a real person because I looked on her page and she had way more followers than people she was following. So I DM'd her. I definitely thought she wasn't going to reply, but she did within an hour. We talked for maybe 2 or 3 weeks and we made it official. She was pretty, had a degree, and a good job, as she said. I felt she was out of my league and too perfect. Every day she posted new photos, and I told my friends about her and they seemed pretty jealous, except for my friend Ryan. He said I was stupid because I never spoke with her, and I only messaged her. She invited me over because she said she could cook. Ryan
But
told
what
me
if
to
it's
don't
not
go.
a girl
The rest of my
and
friends
it's
said don't have any kids,
I mean
and they would laugh.
a grown man?
So I went over there, but not without Ryan calling me a clown first. The GPS says she lived about an hour away. When I first started to talk to her, she told me that she lived in a nice neighborhood. But when I got there were people everywhere, and the neighborhood was not that nice. When I stopped at the stop sign in the corner, people walked up to my windows and asked me what do I need. But I pulled off really fast and got to the house. It was a duplex, so I messaged her, and she said to come up the stairs. It was about 9 at night, and people were everywhere just standing around. I knocked on the door, and I was definitely excited. The door opened, and to my surprise, was a bald-headed white guy with a patchy beard, tattoos everywhere, including his head, with a tank top on. I asked, was Lisa home, and he said, yeah, come in. When I walked in, I was immediately hit with a musty smell mixed with cheese. He told me to sit down, and he sat down across from me on the couch. He said she'll be out soon. He asked me did I want something to drink, and I said, yeah, sure. When I got up, I texted her, can she come out, please? She immediately said yes. The man came back in with 2 cups of juice, one for him and one for myself. Then I noticed that he put a phone down on the table next to him.
No.
So I acted like I sneezed, got some on my arm. Then I asked for a tissue. He went to get some tissue and he left his phone like I thought he would. I texted her back, and to my horror, the phone rang. I looked on the caller ID and it was my name. I heard him coming back. He came back and we sat there for about a minute. And then the phone rang again because he never checked the message that I sent. He looked at the phone. I looked at the phone. Then we looked at each other. I postured up, and he calmly said, I guess you caught me. Then out of nowhere, he lunged toward me, attempting to grab me.
Come on, do something.
I punched him, and he fell on his face. I ran out of there so fast, and I never looked back. Yeah,
That's
I called
good.
the cops.
But
when they got
sometimes you
The
can't
man was still knocked
because
out.
they're stronger.
After that, I never went on dates with people that I met online again. I'm 25 years old, and this story happened to me about 4 months ago. I was doing some late evening shopping at my local Sam's Club. I was looking for items to put in my new apartment and wanted to look at some TVs they had on sale. I think it was around 8 p.m. when I entered the store. The first thing I noticed before entering, however, was a man who stood there near the entrance. He gave me a very long, intense stare. He didn't look well at all. He looked very on edge and jittery. He was wearing a New York Giants cap, a black tank top that had holes in it, and skinny black jeans. He had a poorly shaven face and big red bags under his eyes. I remember looking around at some kitchen appliances when I noticed that the guy from outside was standing in the same aisle. I didn't think twice about it, but after I kept seeing him almost every section of the store I went to, I wouldn't necessarily say he was stalking me, but it did raise some awareness. After picking up a few items, there was about 25 minutes left until the store
Maybe
closed.
he has the same stuff as
I walked over to the
you.
TV section, tried to pick out a decent TV that was on sale. I saw a TV that I liked. Then out of nowhere, I heard a deep voice ask me, "You need some help, man?" I turned around and it was the guy who's been lingering around me. So I answered, "No, that's okay, thanks." I replied in a firm voice. He then walked off without saying anything. I picked up a TV I liked and I went to check out. I started putting my items into the car. And the TV I tried to put in the back seat, but it didn't fit, so I had to put it in my trunk. Once again, the same guy from earlier came up to me asking me if I needed any help. I told him no, this time in a more impatient voice, and I quickly walked off with the shopping cart to put it back. Thankfully, after returning to my car, the guy had left and was happy to drive home. About 5 minutes into driving, I took a glance in my rearview mirror, and I saw those same baggy red eyes staring right back at me. Before I had a chance to do anything, I felt a hand grab my face, covering one of my eyes, which made me
I'm
lose control of my
driving. Let me
car. I crashed
stop.
into a parked car. The man then climbed over and stole any change I had laying around, grabbed my wallet and keys before quickly running off. A passing car stopped to help me. Thankfully, I wasn't badly injured, only a few cuts and bruises. The Sam's Club and the police were informed of what had just happened. The police checked the security cameras and found the guy just lurking around the parking lot most of the evening, trying to get into unlocked cars and looking for change on the ground. It also showed when I walked away to put the shopping cart back that the man snuck into my car and hid while my back was turned. I think he was some kind of drug addict. Maybe he needed some money badly. I'm glad the only thing he took was some cash, even though he almost took my life.
That sucks. Dang, that. What was that all about? True.
This story just happened last year. I work as a receptionist
I
at a
don't think
hotel.
true.
We often hold high school proms here as we have a big hall and a stage. In order to get to the hall, you have to pass the reception desk. It was prom night, and it was already underway. All the students and teachers were in the dance hall. All the pictures had been taken, and the reception area was empty. At some point during the evening, someone approached the reception desk. I looked up to see a tall man standing there. He had a clean-shaven face, and his hair was greasy and tied back in a ponytail. He was also wearing a suit that was pretty old, and it was also dirty, along with some Adidas shoes. His eyes were wide open, and he said, "I'm here for the prom." At first,
That's not funny. How do you mess that up?
I thought he was kidding, but he looked dead serious. He accidentally said porn, then he said prom. I said, "Are you employed by the school?" He said, "No, I'm a student here." I still kept thinking he was joking. He looked to be in his late 40s, and he was telling me he was a high school student. So I asked him, "How old are you?" He said, "I'm 17. No, 16. Yeah, 16. At this point, I thought he was on drugs or something. I said, "I'm sorry, but you don't look 16 at all." He just stared at me, not saying a word, with his eyes wide, staring right at me. He then leaned over to me and said, "I'll make you a deal. I have a big blade in my pocket. If I'm not 16, you can cut my finger off. If I am 16, I can cut your finger off." I didn't get the chance to say anything because he walked out right after he said that. I told my boss about what happened. He said to let him know if he comes back and he'll deal with it. I finished my shift around 12, and they went to get in my car. There was an envelope under my windshield wiper.
Ooh.
Written on it was, "A deal is a deal." I opened the envelope to see a human finger. And I had a feeling that this wasn't his own finger due to it being another color. I never saw that man again.
Wait.
And I always wondered why he was trying to get into that prom. This story is from a
Did
female's
he
point of
cut
view.
off the boss's
When I was in college,
finger? Because he had a
I
ring
worked in
finger.
an Applebee's to make ends meet. I worked there from freshman year to senior year, so I had some regular customers. I had one that tipped me the most, and his name was Larry. Anyways, one day, while at work, I received a friend request on Facebook from a guy that was really attractive. I checked his page out before I accepted it, and it seemed legit, and he was in my city. As soon as I accepted it, he messaged me and said, "Hey, thanks for accepting my request." That was usually code for creep when someone does that, but he was cute. I said no problem, and we continued to converse. Eventually, after a few days chatting, we decided to go on a date. I decided to meet at Chili's on a Friday at 6 p.m. because I don't know this guy, and maybe he's crazy. I arrived at the restaurant before him, and I messaged him to let him know that our table was under my name, and he said okay. After about 20 minutes, I messaged him back, but he didn't reply until 20 minutes later telling me that he wasn't going to make it. I was pissed, but I ordered and ate my food. I left and I drove home. When I got to my apartment, I walked up the stairs to get to my apartment and I hear something behind me. I get to my door, turn to my left, and I see a man standing at the bottom of the stairs looking at me. I look closer and I see that it's Larry, my customer at work. I frantically asked him, "What is he doing here?" And he told me it's okay. Always make sure you make it home safe. Then he said, "Sorry I couldn't make it to the date." I said, "What?" I tried unlocking my door, but I dropped my keys, and he started running up the stairs yelling, "It's not what you think." I grabbed the keys, unlocked the door, and ran inside, closing my door behind me.
I can't even
He started banging on my
imagine.
door, telling me he was my best customer and he deserved me. I called the cops, and they caught him outside in my car, just sitting there calmly. After that, I deleted all of my social media and dating apps. Then I quit my job at Applebee's. Ever since that experience, I'm very paranoid of people's intentions, and I always carry a pistol.
Dang. That sucked.
My name is Kate. I'm 22 years old, and about 3 years ago, I got a job working at Sam's Club. My best friend Mimi, who worked there before me, was the one who suggested that I apply there. Her job was to work on the cash register. Mine was to stock shelves and keep certain areas tidy. One day, a young man entered the store and started to make conversation with me. I would say he was around 25 years old. After some friendly chit-chat, he eventually said that I looked like a model, and he has contacts within the modeling agencies. Honestly, I didn't believe a word he said. He was nice, but I wasn't about to fall for this. After many attempts of trying to persuade me to go with him to meet somewhere, to meet some contacts, he eventually gave up. He didn't leave the store, however, because about 5 minutes later I noticed him talking to Mimi as she was working on the cash register. I was hoping she wouldn't fall for it, but unfortunately she did. At the end of our shift, we spoke about what the guy had said, and Mimi really believed that the guy could get her modeling gigs.
Oh, freak, that's
I told her
charming.
not to meet him, and she said she wouldn't. About a week later, she didn't turn up to work and wasn't answering calls or texts. In fact, she kind of went missing. It was about a week until I finally heard from her. She was in a hospital. Mimi had met up with the guy from the store. She wouldn't say what happened in detail, but what she did tell me was disturbing enough. She met up with the guy from the store in a very old rundown apartment. There were two very large men, one skinny old guy. She was attacked. Two men drugged her, and she fell unconscious. And when she woke up, she was in extreme pain. The men she met up with knocked her out and took all of her belongings. The police said that she was lucky. I'm sorry that Mimi had to go through all of that, but thankfully she wasn't killed. But I'm glad it wasn't me that got lured into the man's sick plan. About a year ago in my final semester in college, I worked at a department store in the mall. I didn't have a car yet, so I asked for the day shifts because it was a 2-hour bus ride back home. So basically, if I had a closing shift, I'd get done at 11 but not get home until around 1 a.m. But sometimes I'd be given a closing shift, much to my annoyance since I had class at 6 a.m. And my mother worries about me because who wants their kid on public transportation at night? My managers, being the jerks that they were, gave me a week of closing shifts, knowing my situation. I was pissed, but whatever. So one night, I had just finished my shift and I got on the bus. I sat in the middle of the bus. I was minding my own business with my earbuds in. I usually did that because I didn't like people talking to me, so I made it look like I was listening to music. And I occupied myself by playing a crossword puzzle on my phone. About 5 seats behind me, I hear these guys speaking Spanish. Now, my mother is Dominican, but people never know that I am, so while I understand a fair bit of Spanish, I don't speak it. So I hear them talking, but I don't pay any attention because it's rude to eavesdrop. All until they say, "That kid in front of us." Then my ears perk up. I keep my earbuds in so that they think I can't hear them. And I continue to listen. What they're saying is horrific. To paraphrase it, they knew my stop because they've been watching me for this week. And to put it simply, they were planning on snatching me. I heard them say that I'll disappear like the others. I was about 20 minutes away from home, so I knew I had to act quickly. Since I knew they could see me, there were 5 seats behind me, but like a cross, if that makes sense. I pretended to play on my phone, oblivious while I was actually texting my mom. Then all of a sudden, one of the guys moved 3 seats ahead of me, and the other one moved about 3 seats behind me. And we're the last ones on the bus. I text my mom, "Can you please meet me at the bus stop?" 5 minutes go by, no answer. We're getting closer to my stop, so I decided to call her cell. No answer. I'll call the house phone and she finally answers. At this point it's about 12:30 a.m., so she was asleep. I try to talk as calmly as I can. This was our conversation. "Hey mom, did you get my text?" No. What's up?" "Oh, I sent you a picture of these jeans I'm gonna order online when I get home. I really need your opinion, so I really need you to look, since the sale ends at 1 a.m. She gets the hint that I need her to look at her cell phone. So I say goodbye, and I hope for the best. I tied my Adidas very tight. We get to my stop, and I see my mom's car. I stand up. Then the man in front of me stands up. Then the guy behind me stands up.
Freak.
I snatch my stuff and I sprint to the door and I got off the bus, with both men behind me, both yelling at each other to grab me. I didn't even look behind me. My mom sees the whole thing and jumps out of the car. I yell at her to get back in the car because they couldn't catch me. I hauled ass. I jump in the car and I tell my mom, "Just go." I look in the rear view and I see the guy staring at the car. The next morning, I called my job and I tell them that I quit. No more public transportation for me. Thanks to my mom for teaching me Spanish. And thanks to my mom for getting the hint.
I always got killed by a cereal.
About 10 to 12 years ago, I was a drug addict living in Cleveland, Ohio. I usually spent my days smoking, drinking, and I was usually up to no good. I would go with whoever had the drugs, basically. One day, my friend and I were talking with this guy, and he said he had some dope on him, and he invited us to his house. It wasn't the first time I've seen him invite women over to his house to smoke and do other drugs. He seemed nice, but I didn't feel comfortable going with him, but I was. Then I saw another friend across the street, so I went over there to her. After that, I went home, and my friend went with him. The next day, his house was surrounded by police and news cameras. I didn't know why, but my friend ended up telling me that when they were in his house, this guy, Anthony, punched her in the back of her head. It started to choke her. Then she woke up in a bed. She said next to the bed, she saw a woman's body with no head attached. But she decided not to scream because he was asleep right next to her. She ended up crawling and getting out of the house. Literally running out of the house, barely clothed. And ended up calling the police. Eventually, they found 11 bodies of 11 different women in and around his house. Who would have known that man was a serial killer? His name was Anthony Sowell. I'm so glad that my other friend caught my attention right before I was going to his house. Who knows? I could have been one of those bodies. This happened pretty recent, about 3 weeks ago.
For 50 minutes.
Myself and 3 friends were hanging out at a shopping center one evening. We were messing around posting clips on TikTok. Then one of my friends started laughing. And I asked her what she was laughing at. She told me that guy behind us kept staring at me. When I turned around, it was some older guy just watching me. He had black sunglasses, a cap, an old Adidas tracksuit with scuffed up shoes, and had a disgusting looking beard. My friends thought it was hilarious, but I found it really weird. Then another one of my friends said, she thinks that guy lives on her street, about a few houses down from her. She said that he actually follows her on TikTok. At that point, I quickly got my phone out to check if he was following me, and he was. I had to block him because he seemed a bit creepy. We went to get McDonald's before we went home, and I received a message on TikTok from someone. It was that guy who had been following us. His name was Greg, and he wrote, "Why did you block me?" with 2 emojis. One was a crying face, and the other one was an angry face. He had actually created another account that day in the shopping center. I blocked that account as well, hoping that would be the end of it. I didn't mention it to my friends this time, knowing they would just laugh. That night, I was up late and had Netflix on in the background as I was chatting with my friends on Facebook while scrolling through TikTok. I got up to use the bathroom, and when I returned, I had 3 messages from my friends, all saying the same thing. All were things like, "Who's in your room?" and "What's up with your last post?" I asked them what they were talking about, and they told me to check my TikTok, so I did. It was a clip of my bedroom. It was a clip of someone picking up my phone and recording the inside of my room. At that point, I heard a creaking. Then I heard a man's voice say, "Sorry. Please don't scream." And turned to see my closet door slightly open. I started to scream when the same guy who had been following us burst out of my closet and tried to cover my mouth. Thank God I screamed and it was enough for my parents to hear. They came upstairs and my dad tackled the guy to the floor. The police were called and he was arrested. We were informed that the guy had straight up admitted to stalking and breaking and entering. One of my friends pointed out, if I go back and look at the post on TikTok from when we were in the shopping center, You can see Greg is in almost all of those pictures, somewhere in the background. I haven't heard what's going to happen to Greg yet, but I just hope he won't ever come near us again. One evening when I was in my junior year of high school, my mom and dad went out, leaving me home alone. I had a lot of homework to do, so I spent the whole evening sitting at a desk in my bedroom. My parents left the house around 6 p.m. When I was doing my homework, I put on my headphones and I listened to loud music. There was a big storm that night, and my desk was facing the window, so I could see the rain and the lightning outside. My parents got back around 11 p.m. When I saw their car drive up, I took off the headphones. As soon as my mom opened the front door and came inside, I heard her shout out my name. "What on earth happened in here?" she demanded in an angry voice. Confused, I ran downstairs. My mom was standing in the hallway with a furious look on her face. She pointed at the floor and yelled, "Was this you?" I looked down and I saw that the carpet was covered in muddy footprints. "I have no idea how those got there," I said. "I spent the whole night at my desk doing my homework." I watched as the look on her face changed from anger to confusion, and then to fear. We both realized at the same time that someone else must have been in the house. We followed the trail of footprints, trying to make sense of the whole situation. They started at the back door, which we usually left unlocked. Then we noticed something else. The footprints started at the back door, but there was no trail of footprints leaving through the back door.
You leave.
All of a sudden, we
Leave it
hear
locked.
something loud, a pounding noise that echoed throughout the house. Then the sound of the front door being wrenched open and slammed shut again. We all ran into the garage and locked the door behind us. My mom took out her cell phone and called the police. She told them to come quickly as she shouted that someone's in our house. After what seemed like hours, a patrol car arrived with 2 police officers, a male and a female. One officer stayed with us in the garage, while his partner went through the house, searching room by room. When she came back, the female officer told us that there was no one in the house, and it was safe to go back in. As we were all breathing a high sigh of relief, she asked, "Whose bedroom is upstairs on the left?" My parents looked at me. "It's mine," I told the officer. She asked us to follow her. As we walked through the house, we could see the trail of muddy footprints leading from the back door through the living room, through the hallway, up the stairs, into my parents' bedroom, then towards my room. They stopped at my doorway. The female officer pointed at my door, which had been open the whole night. Scrawled on it in black marker was the following: 8:47, I see you. 8:53, you forgot to lock the back door. 8:59, you seemed focused. 9:24, turn around. 9:47, look at me. 10:15, look at me. 10:37, look at me. 10:49, look at me. For more than 2 hours, someone had been standing in my doorway, watching me. To this day, I still shudder to think what would have happened if I had just turned around.
Dang. How many are there?
When I was 11 years old, I spent the night hanging out with my closest friend at the time. I left around 7 o'clock. He was about 15 to 20-minute walk away from my house. It was the month of December, so it was icy and dark outside. While I was walking down the long sidewalk, I had to make a turn halfway. Across the turn down the sidewalk, I noticed a man way further down. He was alone at the moment. 10 seconds later,
That's
A
good.
four-door car drove up to him.
That's bad.
It was a long street till my turn, so I watched him talk to whoever it was in the car. It sped off, and he just stopped, watching me as I walked. As I kept walking, all I heard was, "Hey you, come here, stop, hey you." So I freaked out. I started walking faster and then noticed he started running toward me. I started running for my life. Since the ground was covered in snow and ice, all I literally thought was, "Please, God, don't let me slip." I was crying, and I was running. He caught up extremely fast. I kept looking back and noticed the car slowly driving behind him. As I ran, I felt his arm reach out and try to grab the hood of my sweatshirt. By God's grace, his hand slipped, and I ran a block trying to find a house with the lights on. I finally found one and banged at the door, almost ready to break it down. This older couple finally answered, and I ran inside explaining what happened. The husband then went outside to try to find him. When he went out, he saw the man standing at the end of the street staring at him. Then he ran off. My mom called the police and pulled me out of school for 4 days afterward, and this guy was never found. For a while after, I would buy flowers and a card and leave it on the couple's step, thanking them for saving my life. God only knows what would have happened if he got me and dragged me to the car.
True neighbors. I don't like that.
This story happened about 4 years ago. Me and my wife Rachel had just moved into a nice house. About 2 days after moving in, we met a middle-aged couple, Dennis and Laura. They were friendly and were nice neighbors, and we would often go over to their barbecues and evening dinners. We went to their house one night for dinner and it went fine. We talked and laughed and got on great as usual. At one point during the dinner, I needed to go to the bathroom, and I excused myself. As I was walking, Dennis stopped me and said I needed to use the bathroom upstairs. I should mention that whenever me and my wife needed to use the bathroom, we always used the downstairs bathroom. This would be the first time going upstairs, actually. I had to try a few doors to see which one was the bathroom. I eventually opened the door to Dennis and Laura's bedroom. I don't know why, but I just wanted to have a little look around. As nosy as it was, I'm glad I did. I was looking at the pictures on the nightstand, a few of Dennis and a few of Laura together, some of their children, and then one that took me by surprise. It was a picture that we had taken a few months ago. It was the four of us together.
What?
Only my wife's face was scratched out. I thought that's really sick and odd, and it was obviously done deliberately. After seeing this, it made me more curious to see what else was in their room. I opened up the few drawers to see the same thing. That same picture with my wife's face scratched out or cut out of the photo. Just hundreds of them in their drawers. I felt pretty sick with worry at this point, but my curiosity got the best of me, and I decided to look some more. I opened up their closet, and what I saw gives me the chills to this day. It was a mannequin, with clothes very similar to what my wife wears. A large printed picture of her face was covering the head. This was creepy enough, really creepy. But what made it even more scary is, the mannequin was covered with knives and stabbed into the chest of the mannequin. I quickly put everything back to how it was, and closed the closet door. I went back downstairs and I tried to act as normal as I could, even though I wanted to be sick with what I just saw. After a very weird and awkward evening, I was relieved to get away from them and get back home. I didn't tell my wife. I didn't tell her what I saw, but I told her to never speak to them again. And the strange thing is, Dennis and Laura completely avoided us and were pretty hostile towards us ever since. I have an awful feeling that somehow they knew what I just found out. We moved out of that house about 3 months after that. We never seen them again.
That just scared the freak out of me. Oh my gosh. Message what? Is that it? Yes. Is this like what would have happened if they stayed there?
My name is Chris, and this story happened to me last year when I was traveling with my dad across the United States. We were traveling in our RV. We were visiting Nevada. And of course, we had to go and check out Area 51. By the time we got there, it was pretty late and quite dark out. So we thought we would just park the RV, sleep, and check it out in the morning. That night, I think around 1 a.m. my dad was asleep, and I was playing some games on my iPad when I heard some footsteps outside our RV. I took one of my earplugs out so I could listen better, and it sounded like someone was slowly pacing. I took a subtle peek through our blinds. It was pitch black, but you could kind of see something moving. I woke my dad up telling him something is out there.
Ooh.
He took a look out the window and then told me to get a flashlight. I asked him, "You're not going out there, are you?" In a concerned voice, of course. But my dad said, "We have to see what it is." Nervously, we both went outside. We shined our light towards the figure. It looked to be a man with his back toward us. My dad spoke out, "Hello?" No answer, or even any movement.
Get back in there.
My dad spoke again, "Hello? Can you hear me?" As we slowly got closer, you could see the man was wearing some kind of gown, like a hospital gown that patients wear. The man was still unresponsive. We got close enough to tap him on the shoulder, and the man slowly turned around. He looked kind of pale as like a ghost, and his eyes were black, like they weren't even human.
I guess
He
not
stared
high.
right at us, and my dad stepped back in shock. Then we heard a noise. It was more footsteps.
Get back in the RV.
My dad shined his light in a
In
direction,
the RV.
and what was right in front of us were more men. Men in patient gowns, black eyes, looking right at us. Me and my dad ran back into the RV and drove as fast as we could away from Area 51. We spent the rest of the night in the motel we found. We never went back to Area 51 after that. About 10 years ago when I was 12, I would always go into the nearby woods with my friends for most of the day. One night, we left pretty late. Usually I got home before dark, but today, I knew I wouldn't make it back, and I already knew my parents would be mad at me. We were walking in a group for a few blocks, then a couple of my friends split from us to go to their house. I started to notice that a van kept driving past us. I didn't think anything of it.
Probably just waiting for
And then my
one
last
person.
friend split to go to her house. I had about 5 to 10 minutes left until mine. Then I see that van again, and it pulled up right beside me and stopped.
Yeah.
The driver rolled down the front window. Then she told me that she can't find her son and she's been looking all evening. Then she asked me if I seen him. I looked and I said no. Then she asked me if I wanted to get in her van to help find him. I said no again, and I looked forward. Then she asked me, am I sure?
No!
I didn't answer, and I started to walk faster.
That's your
And
answer.
all of a sudden, there was some guy in her back seat that said, "Let's just fucking snatch her." I looked at the van for a split second, as the woman looked in the back seat and she sped up to park on the side of the street. I started running through yards. I heard the doors open and shut on the van, but I didn't look back until I got home. Nobody followed me. I told my parents and we called the cops. I never missed curfew after that. A few years ago when I was in college, I would take odd jobs to pay my half of the rent. One day in particular, I was babysitting a set of twin boys that were 3 years old. The mother told me she hired me because she would only hire men due to her crazy
What
ex-husband.
3-year-old plays
I was
video
confused when she
games?
told me that, so I asked why.
He's playing on
She showed
the
me a
new
picture of him
PlayStation 5.
and said not to answer the door for him.
Or the new Xbox
Don't let
Series.
him in and to not let him see the kids. I just said okay. I thought she was being dramatic, but I went along with it. After she left, the kids seemed harmless, so I told my girlfriend to come over. After that, there was a knock at the door. I figured it was her, so I opened the door. It was the ex-husband. This guy looked a lot scarier in real life than he did in the pictures. He towered over me with tattoos everywhere, including his neck, a bald
Okay,
head,
it's time to shut the door.
and gold teeth. He asked to see his kids. I didn't know what to do, so I just told him, hold on, and I closed the door. I really didn't know what to do, so I called the woman and she didn't answer, so I texted her. Still nothing. Eventually, he started knocking on the door some more, but I would talk through the door, letting him know that I can't let him in, nor could I let the children out to see him due to the mother's request. He didn't like that too much. I stopped talking, then the knocking stopped, and the man said, okay. But it was an okay that sounded like he was going to get me back for not letting him in. I look outside and I see that he pulled off. I didn't call the police because he left. So my girlfriend texted me and it said she'll be there in 2 minutes. Then a few minutes go by and she isn't there yet. Then I see one of the twins looking out the window and he says, there's Daddy. I look out the window and I saw the most disturbing thing you could think of. The man was on top of my girlfriend, stabbing her repeatedly in the side of her head with a screwdriver. Her body was shaking, but she wasn't making any noise. And there was blood everywhere all over her head, face, ground, and that man. I wanted to burst out of that door to help her, but I couldn't bring myself to do it. So I called the police. The man just stood there, staring at the house. He never tried to escape, just waited for the police as if he was crazy. The twins' mother and the cops showed up at the same time, and she was hysterical, going between Spanish and English while crying. I felt numb, guilty, and ashamed that I called my girlfriend over, and she was killed. And I was a coward that stayed in the house. Till this day, I still feel the guilt.
Wow. Is that it? Well, I think that's it. Guys, if you enjoyed, if I can do this. Guys, if you enjoyed this episode right now, leave a like, subscribe right now if you haven't already, and I will see you in the next video. Peace out.